श्री गुरु चरणा पद्मा केवल भक्ति सद्मा श्री गुरु चरण पद्मा केवल भक्ति सद्मा श्री गुरु वंदो मोई सावधान माते वंदो मोई सावधान माते वंदो मोई जहर प्रसादे भव तुरिया जहर जहर प्रसादे भव तुरिया जय कृष्ण प्राप्ति हो जहाँ होते कृष्ण प्राप्ति हो जहाँ होते गुरुमुख पद्म वाक्य ते कोरिया क्या गुरुमुख पद्म वाक्य ते कोरिया क्या आर न करी हो मने आशा आर न करी हो मने आशा गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उत्तम गति श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उत्तम गति ये प्रसाद पूरे सर्व आशा ये प्रसाद पूरे सर्व आशा चक्षुदान दिलगे जन्म जन्म प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलगे जन्म जन्म प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित दिव्य ज्ञान दे प्रकाशित प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेद गाय जहाँ रचरित श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधु लोकना लोकेर जीवाना लोकना लोकेर जीवाना आहा प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद छाया आहा प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद छाया हे बेजा जो सूत्र भुवाना हे बेजा जो सूत्र भुवाना जय प्रभु पद जय प्रभु पद प्रभु पद जय प्रभु पद प्रभुपा 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 जय जय प्रभुपा नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नित्य नामिने नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नित्य नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वती गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद श्री कृष्ण गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण हरे राम हरे कृष्णा Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham. Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham. Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham. Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham. Jai Govardhan, Jai Nandagan, Jai Jai Shri Barsanodham. Jai Nandagan, Jai Jai Shri Barsanodham. Jai Govardhan, Jai Nandagan, Jai Jai Shri Barsanodham. जय जय शिव जय जय राधे जय जय श्याम जय जय श्री वृंदावन धाम जय जय राधे जय जय श्याम जय जय श्री वृंदावन धाम जय जय राधे जय जय श्याम जय जय श्री वृंदावन धाम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधे जय कृष्ण जय वृंदावन जय राधे जय राधे जय कृष्ण जय वृंदावन श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन श्री गोविंद श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन श्याम श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन कालिंदी जमुना जय जय महावन कालिंदी जमुना जय जय महावन Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare.
हाँ Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu. About 30 people are there. Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandat Pranam. A warm welcome to His Grace Subhvilas Prabhu. Okay, so we are all of us are very fortunate on the special day of Janmastami. We have His Grace Subhvilas Das. I would like to take this opportunity and introduce Prabhuji to this forum. Subhvilas Prabhu is actually a TEDx speaker. So being a TEDx speaker is actually a privilege. So he's a TEDx speaker. He's also a lifestyle coach. He's a nice storyteller and also an author of several books. He studied patent law after completing his engineering degree, and he finally chose the path of a spiritual seeker. He's associated with Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Temple, Mumbai, and he served in various leadership roles in congregation development as well as management. He's the head of ISKCON Goa, where the congregation has been on a steady growth curve under his leadership. He heads the Tulsi Books. You must have all seen Tulsi Books, a publishing house where you can order a lot of spiritual books. Okay, he's also a pioneer of the Gita Champion League, and now an international competition to promote Gita learning in various schools. Okay, so after 11 years of monkhood, he once again set out a mission to fulfill the objectives of his life. He considers the whole world his home and works with individuals, youths, corporates, institutes, government, and the world through exclusive workshops, seminars, training modules, and learning retreats. Even in ICC, we've had Prabhuji coming and doing certain workshops in the past, but due to COVID, we could not do much. The focus of his work is the application of scriptural wisdom in day-to-day living. That is very pragmatic, addressing the needs of everyone through thought-provoking seminars. He has delivered about 4,000 odd lectures around the globe as on date. He's also a visiting faculty at the several premier management schools across India, including IIM, where he teaches courses on leadership. And he also talks about epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata, takes the leadership principles from there and delivers to the students. As an author, he's been writing a lot of books. He's taken a deep sense of responsibility towards his society. And he's began with this monumental task of writing series of books on Ramayana. So you must have seen those Ramayana books. It's like selling like hotcakes, very popular. And since then, he's written bestsellers in succession of wide range of subjects. Apart from Ramayana, which is titled Under the Game of Life, Prabhuji has also authored bestsellers like Open-Eyed Meditation, Perfect Love, and Lasting Relationships. So this is the background of Prabhuji. We are all very much honored that Prabhuji has accepted this invitation and coming here. And he's going to give us the nectar of Lord Krishna's pastimes. So today being Janmastami, it is going to be really wonderful to hear from Prabhuji about all these glorious things. And let's warmly welcome Prabhuji. And Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Very grateful and honored to be here amidst all of y'all. Before I start, I have a small request. Whoever are present on this call, obviously YouTube people can't do anything, but at least those who are on the call and would like to keep the cameras on, please do keep them on. It will really be helpful Seeing devotees' faces is always a pleasure, and it makes life for the speaker a little better. I'm just sharing a screen.
So Hare Krishna Prabhu, one just quick note that the Aarti is just getting completed in another 3-4 minutes. So a lot of those devotees are in the Aarti, so they'll join in another 3-4 minutes. But we can start with prayers introduction like that. Okay, thank you.
Om Agyantimirandasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamriyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathamutam Tam Sajivam Advaitam Savadutam Parijana Chaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanatam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanto Radha Kanta Namostate Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvyevacha Pitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. A very, very happy Janmastami to all of you all. And I'm so very grateful to the management of the ISKCON South Temple. Very grateful to Sundarup Sham Prabhu for reaching out to me to be a part of this session. Very, very grateful and honored to be with Narahari Chaitanya Prabhu, Sri Gopinath Pran Prabhu, and so many wonderful devotees that I know of for ages. So today we will be speaking on the topic that we have heard 1,000 times probably. All of us every year we meditate on this topic of Krishna's Janmastami, and obviously it's a topic that we need to discuss again and again and again. So this time, what I'm going to be doing is, from the entire story of Krishna's birth, I'm going to be talking about 10 lessons that we can learn that will really help us absorb the mood of Janmastami in the right spirit. And these 10 lessons are things that are very practical and something that we can meditate on for the whole Janmastami season, and it'll help us see the Janmastami festival in a totally different light, and it'll make it very personally applicable. So with that, I'll begin today's session by introducing you all to a very beautiful verse in the Bhagavad. Nivrittatarshe rupagiyamana bhavaushadi shotramano viramat Kauttama shloka gunanuvada vrijet puman vina pashugnath. This verse talks about 3 effects of Krishna Katha. When you hear, chant, read, absorb yourself in Krishna Katha, what happens? the three things that happen at three different levels of those who are hearing Krishna Katha. It is explained that those who are great souls, the verse, it talks about what happens when great souls hear Krishna Katha, the effect of Krishna Katha on great souls. For liberated souls, Krishna Katha is an absorption. It's a meditation. Many years back, there was an exalted devotee named Punnaga. And Punnaga he was a wonderful devotee in Kerala. And there is a temple in Kerala named Kotiyur. And in this temple, there is a very beautiful story that happened, which I would like to share with you all. And this shows the absorption of great souls in Krishna Katha. So Punnaga used to go to this temple of Kotiyur, and he had a habit of reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was sitting in the temple and reading a chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that particular day, he was reading the chapter of Krishna kidnapping Rukmini, that section of the Bhagavatam. And as he was, absorbed in reading that section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he was greatly affected, inspired, and enthused. So he read the whole chapter, and he put a bookmark at the end of the chapter where he finished reading, and he went away for that day. Closed the book, went away. The next day he came at the same time to continue reading from where he left off. The interesting thing was when he was reading where he, from the place where he left off, something amazing happened. He just opened the book and he saw that the bookmark was before, exactly at the point where he began reading the previous day. He was surprised. How did the bookmark change? So he thought maybe it is Krishna's will, and he read the whole chapter again. The same chapter that he read the previous day. Krishna kidnapping Rukmini. And then he finished reading that chapter and he kept the bookmark at the end of the book, and he went away. The next day he came back to continue reading. And surprisingly, the bookmark went back to that beginning of the chapter. And Punnaga was wondering, what is happening? Why is this? Who is this bringing the bookmark ahead? Punnaga decided that he's going to inspect this himself. So what he did was, after he finished reading the chapter again, he didn't go away. This time he went and hid somewhere, waited for many hours. And after many hours, he came out because when he heard some noise, in the temple. It was late in the evening. No one was around, absolutely no one. But inside the temple, he heard voices. And he peeped inside from the window. And to his shock, he saw Lord Shiva sitting there with Parvati. And they were sitting in front of the Srimad Bhagavatam and reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And they were reading the same chapter. Parvati is asking Lord Shiva, "Arey, why are we reading same chapter again and again? And why do you put the bookmark in front? Again, why do you make Punnaga read the same chapter?" Lord Shiva tells Parvati, "I love this chapter so much. I just can't hear it enough." And Lord Shiva tells Parvati that especially when Punnaga chants the verses of this chapter and narrates this chapter, it just gives me so much joy. This is the effect of Krishna Katha on transcendental people, on great souls. For great souls, it's a medium of absorption. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we know, he would read the same section of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj's story hundreds of times, not over a period of time, in the same go. Finish reading the chapter, again go back, same chapter, again go back. In one stretch, you read it 100 times. Can you imagine, what kind of absorption they are having? The same Krishna Katha on people who are sadhakas acts as a medicine. Bhavaushadi shotra manubhirama. The Krishna Katha for a sadhaka is a aushadi. It's a medicine. For what? Bhavaushadi. It's a medicine for the cycle of birth and death, for the whole material existence. It's a medicine. We know the story of Yamuna Acharya, who was such an exalted soul, but somehow, he defeated a king in a debate. In the king's court, there was a debate going on, and Yamunacharya won that debate. And as a result of that, the king gave him half his kingdom to rule. Yamunacharya became an amazing ruler. From a Brahmana, he got a role of a Kshatriya and an administrator, and he became a great king. And he completely forgot about his Brahminical activities, he completely forgot about his spiritual pursuits, and he was absorbed in mundane pursuits. But then his grandfather, Natha Muni, sent one of his disciples to help him reconnect with Krishna. And this king, he was not interested. But Natha Muni sent a very intelligent disciple who somehow told him that I have to give you a big treasure that your grandfather has left for you. And the king was immediately interested, treasure, And while taking him to the treasure, so-called treasure, on the way, he was chanting the verses of the Bhagavad Gita. And as the verses of Bhagavad Gita were entering into the ears of Yamunacharya, he went through a transformation. He went through such a powerful transformation because those verses he had heard in his childhood and it had registered so intensely in his consciousness. But now, when he was hearing them again, it rekindled that desire to practice spirituality. That is what the idea of Krishna Katha is for a sadhaka. For a sadhaka, Krishna Katha is a means to transform the heart from material, mundane attractions towards higher spiritual attractions. And for those who are not really sadhakas, and for those who are not really even transcendentalists, for those who are material people, just wanting to enjoy themselves, for such people, Krishna Katha is a means of entertainment. I mean, you cannot get better entertainment than the Mahabharata. You cannot get better entertainment than the Ramayana, the Srimad Bhagavatam. The stories are so amazingly entertaining. I mean, the best of the movies, the best of the stories cannot match. That's what Krishna Katha has. 3 effects on 3 different types of people. For a liberated person, Krishna Katha is a means of absorption. For a new devotee, Krishna Katha is a medicine. And for others, Krishna Katha is entertainment. The Srimad Bhagavatam begins with a story of Krishna's birth in a very interesting way. The Bhagavatam begins by narrating the marriage of Devaki and Vasudeva. Both of them born in royal families. And somehow their alliance happened. And both of them were married to each other. Post the marriage, immediately after the marriage, Devaki was to be sent to Vasudeva's home. Her brother Kamsa, he agreed to drive Devaki home. Now imagine, Kamsa was a prince. He was one of the most powerful people in that whole area of Mathura. And more than that, he was a tyrant actually, very demoniac guy. But in spite of that, he had love in his heart towards his sister. No matter how demoniac you are, you cannot avoid the concept of love. You will have love towards some people. Kamsa loved his sister very dearly. And to the extent he was ready to be a driver to his sister. He was driving the chariot of Vasudeva and Devaki towards their home. And there was festival, there was festivity, there was dancing, there was singing, and people were so happy and so excited. And there was a celebration going on all over. And Kamsa was most joyous. Suddenly, right in the middle of the festivities, there was a loud thunderclap. It was so loud, deafening literally, that everything stopped. All the music stopped, all the dancing stopped, all the singing stopped, and everyone was just shell-shocked. And that's when they heard a voice that boomed from the skies. And this voice declared very authoritatively, calling Kamsa a fool, telling him, "You fool, Kamsa, you have no idea what you are doing. The sister that you so lovingly are driving, she is going to be the cause of your death. The eighth child of this of Devaki will be the cause of your death. Now, for Kamsa, it was a shock. The interesting thing about the Bhagavatam is the Bhagavatam is written in a way which is very different from the entertaining stories of this world. Usually, a good movie or a good novel begins with a love story between a boy and a girl. They love each other madly, how they overcome all obstacles, and somehow they get married. And then it says they lived happily ever after. But we all know after marriage only all problems begin, isn't it? And that's exactly what happened here. The Bhagavatam doesn't talk about the love story of Devaki and Vasudeva and all the things that happened before. It straight comes to the point of marriage, and the problems will begin after the marriage. So the Bhagavatam actually brings us to the realities of life so quickly. Kamsa, when he hears this sound declaring the cause of his death to be Devaki's eighth child, he goes mad. Kamsa gets off from his position as a chariot driver, stands up, pulls out his sword, and he is holding Devaki's hair to slash off her head, off her neck. Now imagine, look at the change in personality. Here was a man who was so loving, so kind, so courteous to his sister and brother-in-law, just married. And out of his kindness, he was driving them home. And in one moment, his personality changed. Why? That is what happens when your self-interest gets disturbed. All the love, all the goody-goody behavior that you show the world, the moment your self-interest is disturbed, all that goodness goes away. And you show such cruelty that probably shocks yourself. In just 2 verses, Kamsa's personality changes completely. Just 2 verses. 2 verses back, he was a nice man, very kind man, very good brother, very, very gentle behavior, lot of love and affection. And 2 verses later, he is become a demon, sword out, going to cut the neck of his own sister. This is what happens when a person with self-interest behaves. A person with self-interest becomes totally untrustable. So these are the 2 lessons that we can learn from this section. The Srimad Bhagavatam brings us to the realities of life instantly, immediately. And a person with self-interest cannot be trusted. So now Vasudeva was in a big problem. Imagine the day he got married, just now the marriage got over. And immediately after the marriage, his wife is going to die. Isn't that something that is so disturbing, so difficult to digest? Vasudeva had the pleasure of being connected with his wife just for a few moments. And now he's going to lose her. So Vasudeva is thinking very quickly. He has to act very quickly because he doesn't want to lose his wife. Vasudeva does 3 things to try to save the situation. The first thing Vasudeva does is he tries to praise Kamsa. The weakness of a proud man is praise. So a man is very proud. Praise him a little bit, he'll melt. Then you can get anything done from him. A lot of people in this world, that's the melting point for them. Just speak some nice things about them. That's it. They completely melt. There was once a donkey who went to the marriage of a camel. So, the donkey went to the marriage of a camel and, they were good friends. So the donkey wanted to give some gift to the camel. So the donkey was saying, what gift can I give? So let me speak some nice things about the camel. So he went to the camel and he started talking, appreciating the camel. He says, Aho Rupam, what beauty you have. So handsome you look. I mean, everyone knows a camel doesn't look handsome. But this donkey was appreciating the camel like mad. And the camel was so flattered by the donkey's appreciation that the camel looked at the donkey and he said, Aho Dhwanim, what voice you have! Such an amazing voice you have. Camel is praising donkey's voice. Imagine, the donkey's voice is not so great, and the camel's beauty is not so great. That's what praise does to a person. It just melts you. So they've tried that. For a devotee, praise is something that is disturbing. A devotee doesn't like praise. In fact, very beautiful statement I heard once from His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. And this was something so meditative. He said, I don't want the opulences of this world, but I also don't want the pride of renunciation. Many times we are having this mood that I don't want any sundarim. We are in this mood of not wanting anything in this world. And we chant prayers and all that. But we become proud of the fact that I've renounced. Isn't it true? We give up eating food on Janmastami day, whole day with fasting. But then we become so proud that I'm fasting. See, I'm so renounced, I'm fasting. The body is fasting, but the ego is feasting. So for a proud person, praise is something that melts his heart. So we've tried that first attempt to save Devotee. The next thing Vasudev did was he began to speak philosophy. Vasudev told Kamsa that you're not the body of spirit soul. And he began to speak to Kamsa about the transient nature of life. Why are you scared of death? Death will anyway come to all of us. As the moment you have your body, you're going to die someday. So Vasudev started talking about the eternity of the soul and the transient nature of the body. You know what the most amazing thing is? Vasudev is speaking the same thing that Krishna speaks to Arjuna in the Gita. Vasudev's son, Krishna, speaks the same message to Arjuna much later. So the original Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Vasudev to Kamsa, sitting on a chariot, standing on a chariot. And Krishna speaks the same message of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, standing on a chariot. History repeats, isn't it? So, and for all those of us who are wondering, where did Krishna get that knowledge from? There is a connection from the past. But the most amazing thing is the knowledge that Krishna gives Arjuna, it touches his heart, it transforms his heart, and he actually takes that knowledge very seriously. But here, Kamsa is not in a mood of listening, and therefore the same knowledge Vasudeva is giving Kamsa doesn't work. Bhagavad Gita is same. For some people, it transforms their heart, and for some people, they just say it is useless, waste of time. The problem is not in the Gita. The problem is the eagerness to hear and understand. The problem is not with the speaker of the Gita. The problem is with the person who is hearing the Gita, hearing the message. So a lot of us, our struggle is not that we don't understand the Gita. Our struggle is that we don't want to understand the Gita. And that's where it becomes difficult. Because if somebody doesn't want to understand the message of the Gita, you get the best teacher, that guy won't understand anything. So Kamsa, so Vasudev tried his best to advise Kamsa to speaking the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. After that, Vasudev realized even this is not working out. Praise is not working out so much. Philosophy is not working out so much. Then Vasudev adopted the third means to deal with Kamsa. He decided that he told Kamsa, you have a problem with my 8th child. I promise you, I'll give you every child that is born to us. You do whatever you want with the child. Now, Vasudev, what did he actually do? He decided to trust destiny. Destiny is a very powerful force in all our lives. We make big plans. We think we are in control of our plans. But destiny has a totally different role in our lives. So Kamsa, he was making plan how to remain alive for as long as possible. There's somebody who has already written the destiny. 8th child is going to be the cause of your death. Vasudeva said, rather than believing in Kamsa and all that, let me believe in the destiny, the voice that I heard. If the 8th child is going to be the cause of Kamsa's death, first thing is the 8th child has to be born. And for the 8th child to be born, first 7 children have to be born. And for the 7 children to be born, Devaki has to be alive. And then after that, we will see what happens. So Vasudeva straight away did a bargain with Kamsa. He said, I'll give you all my children, do what you want with it, just let Devaki live. See, a lot of people can almost conquer death. Almost. Death is impossible to conquer, actually. There's a very interesting story of a guy who was on the Titanic. I'm sure all of us have heard of the Titanic, right? So this guy, he was on the Titanic and he survived it. Very few people survived the Titanic wreck. This guy was one of them. And he lived up to 84 years of age. Practically lived an entire life. He lived more than 50, 60 years after the Titanic wreck. Imagine, saved from drowning in an ocean. And then when he was about 84 years old, one day, he was sitting on his dining table, drinking soup. Something happened and somehow his body collapsed and his face fell straight into the soup. And he drowned and died in the soup. Imagine, this guy didn't drown in an ocean. And he drowned in a soup bowl in his house. It can't get worse than that, isn't it? So for a lot of people who think they can fool destiny with their own powers, all the best. So Vasudeva realized, Kamsa is trying to play with his destiny. I just need to make sure that the 8th child is born. That's all. And that was Vasudeva's third option. Vasudeva used praise, Vasudeva used philosophy, and then he decided to rely on the power of fate. The interesting thing over here is when Vasudeva is promising his children to Kamsa, Srimad Bhagavatam explains that Vasudeva had a smile on his face. It is very difficult to smile when you're fearful inside. When there's a lot of fear in your heart, when there's a lot of nervousness in your heart, when there's a lot of anxiety that you're going through, how do you smile? That is what Vasudeva did. And that is what a devotee stands for. Devotee has an ability to smile in the midst of a calamity. The devotee has an ability to not get affected even when going through a crisis. Kamsa was on the same chariot. And imagine the situation. Vasudeva's wife was going to die now. Right now, the problem is in hand, right? And Kamsa was going to die 9 years later, after the 8th child is born. Like at least 9 years it will take. But Kamsa is frustrated now, and Vasudeva is smiling now, in the middle of a calamity. What a contrast, isn't it? Somebody who has 9 years of no worry, no problem, he's getting worried now, and he's not able to handle his, situation. And somebody who has a problem right now, he's standing there and smiling. That is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. One time, a friend of mine, a devotee in our community here, he was traveling in a local train in Mumbai. As he was traveling in the train, there was somebody sitting next to him, and he's just having a conversation. He said, "Hey, do you know what happened? There's a big fire in Bandra. This factory burning, such a huge fire. All the fire brigades are not able to put it off." This devotee sitting next to him, he said, "Yeah, I know." He said, "It's my factory." This man, he was like shocked. He said, "What? Your factory is burning and you're sitting so coolly here?" The devotee said, "What can I do? I know my factory is burning. I'm going to deal with the problem. But what can I do by getting anxious and restless now?" And he said, "I'll go and deal with it. But I know it's not in my control." This man just couldn't believe that someone whose factory such a massive factory is burning so badly, this man can sit coolly and smile and talk about it. That's what happens when you take up Krishna consciousness seriously. The ability of a devotee to smile in a crisis indicates the presence of Krishna in his heart. It actually indicates the faith that a devotee has in the plan of the Lord. It indicates the ability of a devotee to remain unaffected in a trying circumstance. Vasudev was in the mode of goodness, and he smiled knowing that he is not in control. There's a very beautiful saying that says, don't tell God how big your problems are. Tell your problems how big God is. Kamsa thought he was in full control and he acted without thinking, basically. How you respond to situations in life, it depends on you. Situations are not in your hands. How you deal with the situation is very much in your hands. Pain is compulsory, but suffering is optional. All of us are going to go through pain at some point in our lives. All of us, no matter who we are, whether we're devotees or not devotees, we're all going to go through pain in our lives. But whether we want to suffer or no is up to us. Vasudev here chose not to suffer and deal with the pain that is going through intelligently. That ability to learn to respond is what sets a devotee apart from others. Kamsa let Vasudev and Devaki go home. Vasudev went home along with his wife. Exactly 1 year from then, the first child was born. Vasudeva and Devaki were so thrilled to see their firstborn baby, a little beautiful looking boy. They named the child as Kirtiman. And when the child was born, Devaki was so attached to the little baby. The firstborn baby is always special, isn't it? But Vasudeva, he picked the child up and took the child away from Devaki's hands. Devaki was crying hysterically. She just couldn't believe what is happening. She just couldn't believe that Vasudeva is actually going to give this child to Kamsa. She kept pleading with Vasudeva. Vasudeva had a word to keep. The words of saintly people, so powerful. When a saintly person gives a word, at any cost, he keeps that word. Vasudeva here, at the cost of great pain, at the cost of great inconvenience to himself and his wife, he's taking this little baby, Kirtiman, to Kamsa. So when Vasudeva walks in with a little child in his hand, Kamsa, he actually becomes very impressed. Becomes very impressed with Vasudeva. I mean, imagine, this baby is his own nephew, right? Ultimately, his uncle. He's become an uncle now. Kamsa looks at the little baby and he realizes this baby is not the cause of my problem. He let the baby go. He told Vasudeva, take this child back. I don't have any problem with this child. The 8th child is born, get the 8th child to me. Vasudeva, very grateful, took the child back, but he knew in his heart of heart, I cannot trust the words of Kamsa. Look at the difference. Kamsa had full faith in the words of Vasudeva. Vasudeva said, I'll get every child to you. He said, okay, chalo, go. He had full faith in the words of Vasudeva. He didn't even doubt Vasudeva's words. Why? Even a demon does not doubt the words of a devotee. That's the power of the words of a devotee. But when Vasudeva heard Kamsa saying, take the child back, he said, this guy can't be trusted. I can't trust him. So someone who has a selfish agenda, who has a very selfish heart, you cannot trust his words. Today he'll say something, tomorrow he'll say something else, basically. Vasudeva, he realized a man with no self-control cannot be trusted to keep his promise. In the Ramayana, we find Sugriva promises Ram that I will help you find Sita after Vali is killed. Vali got killed, and then the 4 months of the Chaturmas happened. And Sugriva was so absorbed in enjoying himself, he completely forgot his promise to Lord Ram. And Ram had to go and send Lakshman to remind him. And then he remembered, basically. So when Kamsa sent Vasudev back, that evening Narad Muni comes to his house. And Narad Muni has a casual conversation with Kamsa, and Kamsa informs him, I've been so kind, I sent this little baby away. Narad Muni shows him a lotus flower. And he shows him a 8-petaled lotus flower. And he says, in this 8-petaled lotus flower, which petal is first and which petal is last? Kamsa is scratching his head. And that's when he realized everything is cyclic in this world. So 8th can be first, and the first can be 8th, And he ran to the prison, to the palace of Vasudeva and Devaki. First thing is he took that little baby from the hands of Vasudeva and Devaki, smashed it, killed the baby instantly, and put Vasudeva and Devaki in prison. Your ability to speak and keep a promise, it depends on the purity of your lifestyle. A lot of people who have the power to influence others by their words, it simply shows, it's an indicator of the purity of their lifestyle. A great devotee of the Lord, his ability to influence people's hearts is so powerful just because they live such a life that is so pure. Kamsa, from that time on, he kept Vasudeva and Devaki in prison. In fact, he took over his father's kingdom, put Ugrasen, his own father, in prison, and he took over the kingdom of Mathura and became the king, declared himself the king of Mathura. And every year, Vasudeva and Devaki kept having children, one after another, one after another. And every year, Kamsa walked in exactly on the day when the child was born, and he would kill the child. 6 children, one after another, were killed. Now you might wonder, if Vasudeva and Devaki know that Kamsa is going to kill the children that are born, why do they have children only? Might as well not have children. I mean, if the child is not born only, whom is Kamsa going to kill? So logically, and by any common sense logic, Vasudeva and Devaki should not have had children. They would not have had suffering. But Vasudeva and Devaki, they were cooperators with the plans of the Lord. They were not competitors to the plan of the Lord. So most of us, we become competitors to the plan of the Lord. Lord is making his plan. We make parallel plan. And we try to somehow outdo the Lord's plan. The moment you become competitors to the plans of God, you actually are, playing the wrong game. Vasudeva and Devaki, when they heard that sound, the Akashvani that came from the skies, they realized when the Lord said, when that sound declared that the 8th child of Devaki is going to be the cause of Kamsa's death, that means the Lord wants them to have 8 children. As simple as that. When Devaki heard that sound, Kamsa was agitated, he was having a sword, and Vasudeva was anxious because he was trying to save his wife. What was Devaki doing? You could think about it. What was Devaki doing at that point? You know what Devaki was doing? She was smiling. She was grateful. She was in a prayerful mood. You know why? Because she has found out suddenly that she is going to give birth to Krishna. Someone who's going to be the Taranhar of Mathura. Someone who's going to be killing a demon like Kamsa. What a fortune it is. What a fortune it is to be the mother of God. What a fortune it is to give birth to God in your own life. Devaki, she was ready to undergo all kinds of pains and tribulations if that meant she was going to give birth to Krishna in her life. The question that all of us have to ask ourselves on this day of Janmastami is this. Vasudeva and Devaki made great sacrifices to allow Krishna to be born in their lives. What about us? What are we ready to do to allow Krishna to be born in our lives? What sacrifice am I ready to make to allow Krishna to be born in my life? For a lot of people, we all want Krishna in our life, but we're not ready to make sacrifices to make that happen. A very interesting thing, Srila Prabhupada, when he was preaching in the initial days, the establishment of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada asked Shyam Sundar Prabhu, at that point he was not initiated, he was just a new devotee. He asked him to carve the deity of Jagannath from wood. This Shyam Sundar Prabhu was a carpenter at that point, expert in carving. So Shyam Sundar Prabhu agreed. He picked up a log of wood and he was carving Jagannath's deity from it. I don't know what he was doing. While he was carving Jagannath's deity, he was smoking also. And often he would keep the cigarette bud on the head of Jagannath. Now imagine, this is Jagannath, the supreme personality of God, but these American hippies at that point had no idea what they were doing, basically. So Prabhupada came to see the progress of the carving and he saw that cigarette bud on the head of Jagannath. Imagine Prabhupada's anger and his situation, or how much upset he would be. But he knew that these are not people who understand such things. So Shamsundar Prabhupada spoke one statement. Wow. He told Shamsundar Prabhu, why are you allowing a piece of paper to come between you and Krishna? That's it. Why are you allowing a piece of paper to come between you and Krishna? And Prabhupada said that. It hit Shamsundar Prabhu so hard. Cigarette is a piece of paper ultimately, right? And Shamsundar Prabhu that day he decided never he's going to smoke again. And he kept that vow at the end of his life, literally, even now, 50 years down the line. One statement of Prabhupada. All of us, we have something that prevents us from coming close to Krishna. Am I ready to sacrifice that, which is preventing me from coming close to Krishna? All of us have one thing. For somebody, it might be a piece of paper. For somebody, it might be cricket. For somebody, it might be something else. For somebody, it might be a car. For somebody, it might be a position. For somebody, it might be a particular situation. There are so many things are there that comes between us and Krishna. So then they were here. They were ready to make any kind of sacrifices so that they can experience Krishna in their lives. Here, the story of Vasudeva and Devaki giving birth to these 6 children is a very powerful indicator in our own spiritual lives. A devotee should fear material enjoyment. Devaki is the devotee here, and Kamsa is the material enjoyment. Kamsa represents material enjoyment. And just like Devaki feared Kamsa, similarly, a devotee should have fear of material enjoyment. So when a devotee has fear of material enjoyment, what does that fear do? That fear, it destroys the 6 anarthas. Kamsa killed the 6 children of Devaki, and just like the 6 children of Devaki were killed by Kamsa, similarly, the 6 anarthas are killed by that fear for material enjoyment. The 6 sons of Devaki represents the 6 anarthas: lust, anger, greed, illusion, pride, and envy. And just like Devaki, she was fearful of material enjoyment. She was fearful of Kamsa, Similarly, a devotee should be fearful of material enjoyment, and that fear helps destroy the 6 anarthas. And when the 6 anarthas are destroyed, that is when the spiritual master comes into our life. In fact, spiritual master comes a little earlier. He helps us deal with the 6 anarthas. But beyond the 6, when the 6 anarthas are destroyed, that is when the Guru takes firm position in your lives. After the 6 children were killed by Kamsa, the 7th child that was born was Balramji. In the womb of Devaki, Balaram appeared. Balaram is the Adi Guru, represents the original spiritual master. And Balramji, he appeared in the womb of Devaki. But he lasted in the womb of Devaki for a few days only. And from the womb of Devaki, he got attracted towards the womb of Rohini. And because Balaram got attracted from one womb to another, he is known as Sankarshan. The word Akarshan means being the one who is attracted. And Sankarshan means the one who is attracted from one womb to another. Balramji was attracted from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. Why did he take birth in the womb of Devaki at all? For 2 reasons. One is to create an environment where Krishna can manifest. The role of Guru is to create an environment in our hearts where Krishna can manifest. So, Balramji comes and inspects whether this is the right place for Krishna to take birth. He inspects the womb of Devaki, very good, very conducive environment, And then Balramji goes to his final destination, Rohini's womb. The role of the spiritual master is to help us create a conducive environment to give birth to Krishna in our lives. The second reason why Balram appears in the womb of Devaki is to confuse Kamsa. Now, the pregnancy lasts for a few days in Devaki's womb, and suddenly the pregnancy is gone. So when Kamsa comes to know that the pregnancy is no more there, he's very confused. They declare it as a miscarriage. But Kamsa is very confused. What exactly happened? He didn't understand, and he lost count. He got confused. Is it the right seventh child or eighth child or what is it? He just lost track. So after the guru comes into our life, the next thing that happens is bhakti arises. Soon after, Vasudeva felt uh, the divine spark manifest in his heart. Krishna manifested in the heart of Vasudeva. And from the heart of Vasudeva, he was transferred to the heart of Devaki. And from her heart, he was transferred to her womb. And when Vasudeva, transferred Krishna from his heart to the heart of Devaki, that is what is considered to be the process of initiation. The spiritual master has Krishna in his heart. And that Krishna which he has in his heart, he transfers into the heart of his disciple. And that is known as initiation. And once that happens, then Krishna is born. So this is the cycle of giving birth to Krishna. For anyone who has a desire to give birth to Krishna, this is the formula. This is the formula that Devaki and Vasudeva followed 5,000 years back. And this is the same formula that works for all of us today. Vasudeva and Devaki, as I said, acted as cooperators to the plan of the Lord and did not act as competitors to the plan of the Lord. And all of us have a choice to do that, to the same thing. Balramji, when he was transferred to the womb of Rohini, here, as I said, Kamsa is very confused. And he was very confused whether he should keep the count or not. And the most powerful thing that we can learn from this is that we have a tendency to think that we can fool God. And we make foolproof plans, The Kamsa had a foolproof plan how to save himself. And now suddenly something happened which he's not able to figure out now. So the seventh child, is he the seventh child? Or is the eighth child the seventh child? So, and that means, is the actual eighth child going to be born after the eighth child? Or is he going to be born now? Kamsa was royally confused. See, Krishna has 3 switches in his heart, in our heart. In all our hearts, there are 3 switches: Jnanam, knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So all of us have knowledge in our hearts, we have remembrance in our hearts, and we also have forgetfulness in our hearts. Krishna can turn on any switch anytime. There are some times when we think we have made a foolproof plan, but the moment we think we have made a foolproof plan, that is when Krishna can switch off one aspect of our intelligence. We wonder what just happened. Krishna appears in the womb of Devaki. When he is in the womb of Devaki, Devaki becomes resplendent, so effulgent that the entire prison cell begins to shine like anything. And when Kamsa saw Devaki, he realized Krishna has entered her. He realized the person who's going to kill him has entered her. For that one moment, Kamsa actually felt, maybe I should just take shelter of Krishna. For that one moment, Kamsa actually considered taking shelter of Krishna. But the very next moment, he gave up the thought. He said, leave it, I am too powerful. See, for every demon, there comes a point in time in his life where he feels he's losing control. For one moment, he actually thinks of taking shelter. But the problem is that one moment is so temporary, so small that often they miss it. When Vibhishan came to meet Lord Ram on the other side of the ocean, kicked out from Lanka, Vibhishan is folding his hand and telling Sugriv, please allow me to meet Ram. Sugriv says, no, Ram is very busy, very, very busy. He's too busy, a lot of meetings all day long. Very bureaucratic reply, Vibhishan told Sugriv something amazing. You know what he told Sugriv? He told Sugriv, see, I'm a demon. My mind is very flickering. Right now, I want to surrender to Ram. Please allow me to surrender right now. Otherwise, next moment, I don't know what will happen to my mind. That's exactly how we should think. If you are inspired to do some service now, do it right away. Because the next moment, your mind will change. If you are inspired to do something good for Krishna now, do it immediately. Because the next moment, the mind will give you so many reasons why you can't do it. If you are inspired to sacrifice something for the sake of Krishna, do it now. Because the next moment your mind will change. That's how the demonic mind is. Well, Vasudev and Krishna and Devaki, when they were carrying Krishna, the entire place was so effulgent. The guru disciple relationship is a heart to heart relationship. The guru, who has Krishna in his heart, transfers it to the disciple, who also experiences Krishna in his or her heart. One time, one of our devotees was traveling through immigration in an airport, and he was stopped by the customs. All his bags were opened up and checked thoroughly. After about half an hour, again the custom officials came and they did a second search. Everything they inspected thoroughly. After some time, again they came back, because this devotee was thinking, what's wrong with them? Why are they coming back again and again? They asked him, so he asked them, why are you doing this? What's the problem? You know what they told him? They told him, you look too happy. You look too happy. Something is wrong, surely. We feel something is wrong with you. Yeah. Imagine, and they didn't even know he was a devotee. He was not dressed as a devotee. He was not in devotee attire also. But they just looked at him and they felt he's too happy. This is what happens when you have Krishna in your heart. When Krishna manifests in your heart, you're happy. You have a big smile on your face and you're extremely happy. So Devaki and Vasudev, they experienced so many amazing things during that tenure of pregnancy. Every day, they were able to experience so many divine personalities in and around them. They were able to experience so many amazing things happening. And finally, when the little child was born, Krishna manifested in the form of, four-handed form, holding Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, very beautiful form. And the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, all of them offered prayers to this little baby manifesting in the lives of Vasudev and Devaki. The prayers of Lord Brahma and the demigods were very intellectual type of prayers. Some other day we can analyze the prayers of these demigods. And the prayers are so intellectual, Sometimes it spins your head. Whatever you have, you should use it in Krishna service. If you have intelligence, use that in Krishna service. If you have some skills, use that in Krishna service. Whatever you have, you should immediately use it in Krishna service. Vasudev and Devaki, when they saw this little baby, the four-handed form, fully decorated, proper hair on his head, having a peacock feather on his head, full manifestation of Krishna, and in the Vishnu form first. Krishna was born on the 8th month. He was not born like a regular child on the 9th month. 1 month before only he was born. Just to bewilder Kamsa even more, confuse Kamsa even more. The full moon appeared out of schedule when Krishna was born. Devaki and Vasudeva began to offer prayers to the little born baby. And as soon as the prayers were offered to Vasudeva and Devaki, Krishna orders Vasudeva, take me to Vrindavan and keep me in the house of Nanda Maharaj and bring the little baby girl that is born in their house here. When a child is born to a parent, what happens usually? The first 5 years of the child's birth are pure bliss for parents, isn't it? After that, all problems start happening, basically. Once the child starts growing and becomes a teenager and all complications begin. But the first 5 years are the most beautiful times of a parent's life. Here is a baby just born to them after 9 long years, losing 7 children. And as soon as the baby is born, what does Krishna tell them? Take me to Vrindavan. There is no chance for a devotee to enjoy Krishna. So if you think that I'm going to enjoy Krishna, sorry, it doesn't happen in Krishna consciousness. The only thing that will happen is you'll get to serve Krishna. So a lot of people think I've come to bhakti to enjoy my life. Come on, nobody gets to enjoy life in bhakti. In bhakti, the only thing that you get is seva. So if you are thinking and wondering, why am I not enjoying life? Why am I so much anxiety? Why am I getting so much service one after another? That's what you've signed up for. Vasudeva and Devaki, when they, saw this little baby boy born, first thing the baby tells them, take me to Vrindavan. Directly, as soon as he's born, he's giving them instructions, And Vasudeva and Devaki, as soon as they heard this little baby telling them this, Vasudeva picked up Krishna in his hands. Vasudeva had shackles on his hands and legs. The prison door was locked. There were so many guards there. But as soon as Vasudeva picked up Krishna in his hands, the shackles opened up. The prison door opened up. All the guards fell asleep on their own. All the problems got solved on its own. As Vasudeva was carrying Krishna into the, outside the prison house, there was torrential rain poured. And, a 1,000-hooded snake, Anantashesh, came and umbrellaed Krishna. And then, as they were going into the Yamuna River was overflowing. But as soon as the water of the Yamuna touched the lotus feet of Krishna, just a little bit, the entire Yamuna parted ways. Mostly straight walked through the Yamuna River and reached Vrindavan and exchanged the little baby. The most important thing that we can learn from this episode is this. As soon as Vasudeva picked up Krishna in his hands, all the shackles on their own fell off. The prison doors on their own opened up. And all the problems got solved on their own. All of us, when we pick up our bead bags in our hands, we're actually picking up Krishna in our hands. As soon as you pick up Krishna, your shackles will fall off automatically. As soon as you pick up Krishna in your hands, a lot of problems in your life will get solved automatically. All the obstacles in your spiritual life will automatically get taken care of. The only thing you need to do is pick up Krishna. A lot of people just don't want to pick up Krishna, thinking that I have so many problems. How will I deal with it? I don't have time for chanting. I don't have time to do this. Come on, just trust the process. Just pick up Krishna. Imagine if Vasudeva not picked up Krishna, only thinking, I have shackles, what I can do. This baby might talk big things, but I'm tired of, I can't do anything. No, you need to just have faith and pick up Krishna in your hands. As soon as you pick up Krishna in your hands, everything happens on its own. Vasudeva managed to reach Vrindavan, picked up the little baby girl in place of Krishna, and came back. Vasudeva and Devaki's life represents at so many levels, so many things that we can and we should learn. Janmastami is a time to meditate on two things. I have three things, which I will conclude with. This is the last meditation that I'm leaving you all with. The first thing is, Janmashtami is a time to meditate on the sacrifice of Vasudeva and Devaki. As much as it is joyous occasion of the birth of Krishna, it is also a time to meditate on the sacrifice of Vasudeva and Devaki. The question is, what am I ready to sacrifice to please Krishna, to bring Krishna into my life? Vasudeva and Devaki sacrificed so much. Kamsundar Prabhu sacrificed that little piece of paper to bring Krishna into his life. All of us have something that is an obstacle to bring Krishna into our lives. Let us today, on this very auspicious day of Janmashtami, to take at least one measure, to at least give up one thing that is an obstacle in us experiencing Krishna in our lives. The second thing that I would leave you all with as a meditation is Krishna is one of the most sweetest personalities in this world. Am I ready to connect with Krishna? A lot of times, Krishna is eager to connect with us. The problem is from our side. The second thing that we need to really think is, what can I do to connect with Krishna more intensely? Srila Prabhupada gives some amazing thoughts to his disciples in the beginning. When disciples they were all living all over and they would come to the center to attend programs and all. Prabhupada told all his disciples, whenever you come to the temple, bring one small gift for Krishna. It could be one leaf, one flower, one fruit, a little water. Get something for Krishna. Develop this habit of giving Krishna. And you know what these young boys and girls would do? Every single time they would visit Krishna, they would get something. If they had no money, they would pluck some flowers from the garden around and bring those flowers. If they had some money, they would buy some fruits and vegetables and whatever, bring for Krishna. Every time you visit Krishna, give him something. The Indian culture is a culture of taking from God. Everyone goes to God to take something from him. Every time we have a long list of things that we ask God for, right? We are just constantly in this mood of taking from God. But Krishna consciousness is a process of giving God. We are not interested in taking from Krishna because we're already grateful. Krishna has already given us more than we deserve. And therefore, what we need to do is, what can I do for Krishna? Every time we need to think. And it doesn't necessarily only have to be for in the temple. You can every single day give something to Krishna. So let us every day plan to give something to Krishna that will make him happy. The third thing that I would like to leave you all with is, it's great that we are connected with Krishna and Krishna consciousness. But there are thousands of souls that do not have that fortune of being connected with Krishna and the process of Krishna consciousness. Let us all take this vow on this Janmastami day that throughout this year, I'll at least try to bring a few souls to close to Krishna. We all have concluded that this guy is not interested in spiritual life. You know, somehow we make conclusions about people. And we make a lot of conclusions, you know, that they're not interested only, all absolute. But the reality is, everyone has Krishna in their hearts. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhaka Banai, Shravanadi Shuddhi Chitta Karahodai. Everyone has Krishna in their hearts. We only have to kindle that little spark, and then Krishna will manifest fully into their hearts. Let us all become instruments of connecting people with Krishna. Let us all become instruments of trying to help as many people as possible connect with Krishna and experience Krishna in their lives. With these three thoughts, I would like to end. Thank you very much. Very, very grateful and happy to be a part of this Sangha, and very, very happy to serve all of you all on this very auspicious morning of Janmastami. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. So very nice class, Prabhu. It was a nectar flowing out on the special day of Janmashtami. What else we can ask for to hear such a nectar on this glorious day? So just for the benefit of devotees, just summarizing what Prabhuji has said, very beautiful points so that it will be absorbed and we can carry forward in our heart throughout the day. So he talked about three important effects of Krishna Katha. And then Prabhuji talked about the story of how this great devotee Ponaga trying to read this pastime of Rukmini, and then Lord Shiva and Parvati getting attracted to read that again and again. So Prabhuji talked about how Krishna Katha is the greatest medicine for the soul. He also talked about how it's a great purification factor, where Yamunacharya heard this and then he got completely purified and became a great devotee. So he talked about excellent transformation and provides a spiritual platform for Krishna to enter. So that's what Krishna Katha does to each one of us. Prabhuji talked about three important things of hearing Krishna Katha. One is about absorption, about medicine, and also about entertainment. So very wonderfully, Prabhuji concluded on it. And he talked about the glories of devotees like Vasudeva and Devaki in compared to Kamsa. So when Vasudeva was trying to attempt to preach Kamsa, when he failed, he immediately adopted the principles of diplomacy. He used concepts like praising him and trying to please his pride, where pride is the greatest danger. So Prabhuji very beautifully explained how devotees should stay away from pride. And he's also talking about discover your destiny, a beautiful lesson that he talked about, where he said how Vasudeva adopted the three principles to really give us what this the situation that he was dealing with Kamsa. He talked about praise, philosophy, and power of faith. He used all these three methods and then helped to cross over the situation so that the Lord can be born. Prabhuji made a very important point about ability of a devotee to smile in a crisis situation. That tells the level of realization for a devotee, a very valuable point that we can take. He also talked about pain and suffering, where pain is awarded to us, but the choice with us is whether do we want to suffer or not, and what choice do we have. It's a very wonderful explanation that he gave. Prabhuji also talked about the power of influence, how great devotees can easily influence many people to come to this platform of Krishna consciousness. So his conclusion on this, all these three topics was about, let us cooperate with the plan of the Lord rather than competing with the plan of the Lord. So cooperation leads to happiness and success, where competition with the Lord's plan leads us to failures. Right? Then he talked about the consciousness of Mother Devaki, where she wanted to go through the pain of having 7 to 8 births, but she wanted to finally get the fact that Krishna is being born. So that is the pain that she goes through. So that demonstrates the qualitativeness of devotee's consciousness. It's a very beautiful, privilege explained. Then Prabhu talked about how when we go through this pain, like how Krishna was born, bhakti arises in our heart. It's a very nice summary on that point, Prabhu. Then he talked about mode of service very, very brilliantly. Prabhuji talked about we have a flickering mind. When there is an opportunity, even for a fraction of a second, immediately surrender to that fraction of a second to Krishna and then engage ourselves in service. Do not allow the mind to conquer us, where we will deviate and then lose our opportunity. So very brilliantly Prabhu presented. Prabhu talked about guru-disciple relationship, how it's a heart-to-heart transfer. Very, very wonderfully talked about. And Prabhuji finally concluded with a key takeaway for all of us. The first point Prabhuji talked about was time to meditate on this Janmastami. What do we meditate on? What are our goals? What is that we want to accomplish in our spiritual life? So how do we want to remove our obstacles and take shelter of Krishna? Then he also talked about the sweetness of the Lord. And he says, just by connecting with that sweetness of the Lord, you see all the miseries are washed away. Once Vasudeva touched Krishna and then wanted to take him to, following his instruction, take him to Vrindavan, you see all impediments for Vasudeva was cleansed or cleaned, and then he was able to complete the mission. So that's how our life is going to be. Then he also talked about importance of preaching. So he said, there are lots of souls who are fortunate here, was able to take up shelter of Srila Prabhupada, they come under the shelter of the Supreme Lord. So we should feel compassionate, also give this to thousands of souls that they will get privilege to do this. So Prabhuji, really wonderful nectar. Thank you so much for giving this. So I think we have His Grace Narahari Chaitanya Prabhu also. So maybe we will have Prabhuji speak few words. Narahari Prabhu. Narahari Prabhu there? Is Narahari Prabhu there?
I don't see with that name.
Okay, so Prabhuji was in the class all this time, and he just started his driving. So he's just called me to tell that he's really thanking for your wonderful class and also coming and blessing all the devotees on this special day. So he is expressing his special thanks to you, Prabhuji.
Hari.
Okay, so now we'll open up the stage for questions. I'm sure there are lots of questions that people are waiting for. So,
Hare Krishna Prabhu, there is a question from Sankashna Priya Prabhu. Sankashna Priya Prabhu, you can unmute and ask questions.
Yeah, sure, Prabhu. Hare Krishna Subhvilas Prabhu. Thank you very much for wonderful and very nice class, Prabhuji. It is, at the end of the class, you summarized what we should be meditating on. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. I have two questions, Prabhuji. One is that Devaki, when she heard the Asariri from the sky, and she, willingly cooperated with the plan of the Lord. And in our case, Prabhuji, how to distinguish that, it is the plan of the Lord when we are, failing in our endeavors versus our effort is inadequate. Because of that, are we failing? That's one question, Prabhuji.
So there is a difference between endeavor and over endeavor. Endeavor is never a problem. In fact, we should never stop endeavoring. As much as possible, we put efforts. But after putting enough efforts from so many multiple ways and angles, if still things don't work out, that's when we start accepting it as a will of the Lord. See, usually the will of the Lord manifests in 2 or 3 ways. Most of the times, if the Lord wants to give you a message, He'll give the same message 2 or 3 times. It'll come through some devotee. Somebody will give you some hint. Some situation will be created in a way that you understand that this is what it means. Same message will come multiple times. If you are a little sensitive enough, you will actually see it. Then you understand. Bas, enough effort. But at the same time, as I said, don't give up immediately. The first thing should not be to give up. First thing is to endeavor as much as possible. Only then grace will come. Yashoda Mai, when she tried to tie up Krishna, the gopis are telling her, give up. Your boy is God. He's not going to get tied up like this. Yashoda Mai said, even if he's God, I'll tie him up. So she endeavored for like 11, 12 hours literally. And then Krishna saw her endeavor and then he decided, chalo, let me give her my grace. Then Kripa came, right? Imagine if she had given up in the 3rd rope only, then she would not have been able to tie up Krishna. That's too less endeavor. But at some point, after those 11 hours, Yashoda Mai actually thought of giving up. And exactly at that time, Krishna's grace came. So sometimes we just give up too quickly, because we think it is not happening. That requires perseverance. But at the same time, over-endeavoring in spite of getting so many different, cues and intuition, messages, that's over-endeavoring. So it's a very subtle balance.
Thank you, Prabhuji. If you don't mind, I want to ask one more question. Sundarushan Prabhu, can I ask one more question, Prabhuji?
Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu. Go ahead.
Prabhuji, you mentioned that when Krishna entered to the heart of Devaki and Devaki become effulgent, and then Kamsa, on seeing the effulgent, he realized that now Krishna has entered into the body of Devaki, and for a moment he felt that he wants to take shelter of the Lord, and then immediately after that that has disappeared. So even in my sadhana or in my seva, sometimes I get momentary bliss, and then later the sadhana or the seva, it becomes monotonous. So I continue to do, but how to sustain that moment of bliss when I'm doing seva or sadhana, Prabhuji?
See, when Krishna gives us those moments of bliss, that's the free sample. After that, you have to pay the price. Every single devotee experiences a little moment of bliss, once in a while. Remember, that's only a sample. And anything that is valuable is not given free. People don't value it. So it is important that you understand that when you experience bliss, it's not that we deserved it. It's just given to us to attract our hearts. But if we deserve something, we have to work towards it. And therefore, the great devotees of the Lord who are experiencing bliss on a constant level, they are the ones who have put in steady amount of energy in serving the Lord. They are the ones who have really put in a steady amount of effort in trying to retain the right mood and right consciousness to serve the Lord and His devotees. Most people are like Diwali rockets, so big seva they do and then gone. You don't see the Diwali rocket the next day morning, isn't it? You'll be lying in some gutter or some, on top of some terrace, nobody bothers about it. So you can come and big bang and do something big, and then disappear totally. That's not what Krishna consciousness is about. It's about steadiness. So once you take up something, no matter what the obstacles are, we keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And you know what the most amazing thing is? The most amazing thing is that this idea of when you will experience bliss that lasts is not in your hand. The only thing that is in your hand is continuity and steadiness. And then someday, Krishna will give you such a flood, but that you can't determine when it will happen. Shabari was, every single day she was picking up flowers, picking up fruits. Every single day she was washing the ashram. She was preparing for Ram's arrival. Matangari, she said, he will come. He never gave her a date when he will come. She kept doing it, and she would have done it for the rest of her life also. If I'm not mistaken, at least for 13 years, Shabari did this. 13 years every day, thinking that Ram will come today. Look at her steadiness. And after that, one day, big flood. You understand? So I think that steadiness is very important for a devotee.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Okay, Sri Gopinath Prabhu, you can go with your question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavats Pranam.
Hare
Hare. Thank you for a wonderful class and many lessons, so many wonderful points, especially on a Krishna Janmastami day. So I'm wishing everybody a very happy Krishna conscious Janmastami on this special day. And I had one question, but just before the question, I wanted to thank the management of ISKCON South Bangalore for arranging this Krishna Katha series. In fact, wonderful speakers, beautiful topics, and time was 8 o'clock. Everything was very nice, because nowadays this online classes is like super mall, not even supermarket. So many choices we have to pick and choose which nourishes us, and that's how I chose. And my question is, so I thank the management for arranging this. And my question is, see, generally sadhu are meant for doing good to others, and that's how it happens also. We read in all these scriptures. So Narada Muni came with a lotus flower to Kamsa, and he was explaining about the 8-petal concept. In fact, we all know for what it happened and further how it expanded. Now in Ramayana also, Manthara came and she confused Kaikeyi. So how do we understand these two? I know that these two are different purposes, but the scene or scenario looks to be or appears to be similar. So if you can throw light on this, it would be nice.
So usually we always look at any action from the point of view of motive. There are 4 things that we really need to understand to be able to understand a human being. 2 are external and 2 are internal. One is excellence in skills. That is very easily you can see a person understand. This person is very good in speaking, or very good in singing, or very good in dancing, whatever. External skills is very easy to understand. Second is behavior. You look at a person's behavior, you understand the person. Courteous, speaking the right kind of words, behaving the right way. That is very easy to understand. These 2 are externals. There are 2 things that are internal that are difficult to understand. One is character. To understand character of a person is not easy, because it's subtle, right? And you can't understand character of a person by one meeting. It takes a long period of time to understand the character of a person. Second thing, which is even more complicated to understand, is purpose. Why that person is learning these skills, or exhibiting these skills. Why the person is behaving in a certain way. Why the person is showing certain characters. Very difficult. And this is the most important thing to understand. So whenever you look at the action of a person, first you try to go deeper and understand the purpose behind the action. In case of Manthara, the purpose was very clear that she was her. See, servants have a very simple problem in life. They don't have very complicated problems. They're very simple problems. But for their simple problem, they're ready to do anything, basically. Manthara's problem was that if Kaikeyi's son doesn't become the king, Kaushalya's son becomes the king, then Kaushalya will get more priority. That means Kaikeyi will be nobody in Ayodhya. And if Kaikeyi is nobody in Ayodhya, she is a servant who, what she will be? She will be absolutely nobody. So her insecurity prompted her to do what she did. Whereas in case of Narad Muni, we find that when Narad Muni goes to Kamsa and he does whatever he does, what is his intention? Does he get something out of it? Does he have some enmity with the Lord or with Vasudeva Devaki? Nothing like that. His intention is very different. And his intention is simply to expedite the arrival of Krishna. And because his intention was only to do that, it's considered a totally different realm than Manthara's thought process, basically. And that helps us understand such stories a little better.
Okay. Yeah, good. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we have devotees from our temple hall wanting to ask certain questions. Can we go ahead, Prabhuji? Vanamali Prabhu, you want to start? You are muted. Vanamali.
Hare Krishna, am I audible?
There's echoing, Prabhuji.
Yeah, the second mic has to be put off. The temple hall wala. It has to be muted, that's all. One has to be muted.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Yes.
I think I'm audible, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the nice lessons you brought out. Wanted to ask about the answer you gave for the first question, that how to understand the plan of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So you had told that we can take the message of the Lord or indication from 2-3 devotees. However, I was thinking, is it not that we should take the clear-cut indication of the Lord from our spiritual master or our immediate authority? That would be the first priority.
So I answered the question was asked by a Grasta devotee, right? So I answered him differently because Grasta devotees don't have authority that is sitting on their head all the time that gives them with them instructions, isn't it? If for those who are in the temple, I would have answered it differently. For those who are in the temple, obviously somebody that is deciding, that makes life much more easier. So someone who's in the regular world, we don't have the fortune of seeing that kind of clear-cut structure of authority. So naturally, they have to depend on something more intuitive than anything else. I hope that helps you.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, we have Prasanna Prabhu. You can ask you the question, Prabhuji. Prasanna Prabhu. Okay, so no problem. So we have questions on the chat window. So this is from Hitesh Prabhu. So he's asking, Hare Krishna Prabhu, you told that bhakti means not to enjoy but to serve. However, it is said that we have to relish Krishna consciousness. How to understand this, Prabhu?
The idea is to relish service. See, when I'm saying that bhakti means not to enjoy but to serve, what I mean is that it's the idea of bhakti is not about taking. See, the moment you say that I want to relish my spiritual life. Now, there are two ways to relish your spiritual life. A lot of people just want to go to Vrindavan or Radhakund or somewhere, sit there and only chant and relish their spiritual life. But that's not possible. The spiritual life, Krishna consciousness is three things, right? The three things in Krishna consciousness is Namaruchi, Jivadaya, and Vaishnu Seva. Three things are the essence of Krishna consciousness. Namaruchi is taste for holy name, which is personal. Jivadaya is serving,
Compassion.
with compassion, new people, bringing people. And the third thing is Vaishnava Seva, is serving devotees. So if you look at these three most important principles of spiritual life, two are meant for others and one is for yourself. When you say, I want to relish spiritual life, you only have 1/3 opportunity to relish for yourself, which is Namaruchi part. Jivadaya and Vaishnava Seva is about others, isn't it? It's about serving others, right? So 2/3 of our spiritual life is about others, and 1/3 is for yourself. A lot of people feel that I want, forget 2/3, I want 100% for myself only. I will only read books. I will only chant all the time. I will only do kirtan. When the element of I only is there, there's an element of selfishness coming in, and it actually will make you stunted as a devotee. It will make your growth stunted. The holistic growth is when you think about not only your growth, but you think about the growth of others also. So the more you think about your own growth only and do not care for others' growth, your growth will be stunted. I hope that answers.
Okay, so Prabhu, we have one more question. This is from Bharati Mataji. How to get permanent bliss? How to work for it?
I think I gave that answer during the discussion itself. Bharati Mataji, if she has not got the answer, I probably can answer it.
She says she's got her answer. Okay. So there's also another book, Prabhu. Question is from, I don't know who the devotee is. Please suggest your book on Krishna Katha.
So I have written 3 books on Krishna Katha. You can find it on Amazon, obviously. There is a book that I just recently published. It's called The Little Blue Book on Krishna. This is a book that has, practically released on Janmastami itself. This book it has about 40-50 stories of Krishna's life that are unknown. Very, very amazing special stories from Vrindavan and many other stories that are unknown. So this is a good book. Then I also wrote 2 other books. There's a book I wrote called 2 Fingers Short. This is the entire Damodar Leela explained in great details, many of which many devotees wouldn't know of. And the third book is called Janmastami. The book is called Janmastami, basically, the wonder of the 8th child. So the whole Janmastami story and many details of it in great detail. So these 3 are books on Krishna Katha that I have written.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. So devotees can browse on Amazon.com or Tulsi Books. You will see all Prabhuji's books there, and you can just place your orders, and you can get those books too. Okay. So I think there are no other questions.
I think
Yes,
I got one personal question from one devotee.
Yeah,
Hari.
sure.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much for a wonderful session. You mentioned that as soon as we pick Krishna, all our problems are solved. So even after picking him, if we are facing problems, then does it mean that we are not picking up or chanting him properly? If not, how to pick him up in proper way?
So there are 2 types of problems that come into our life. One is prarabdha and second is aprarabdha. Prarabdha karma is something that has already happened, manifested in our life. And aprarabdha is something that is going to come. So picking up Krishna will help you deal with aprarabdha immediately. That means the problems that are going to come in future, the reactions to the karma that you have done in the future will be taken care of. But whatever has already happened in the past and it's already you're experiencing it, that you will have to tolerate it, basically. Like for example, the way we look. After we pick up Krishna, it's not that suddenly we're going to become handsome. What is there, basically. You can't change that. So what are the family that we are born in? Suppose we are born in a lower middle class family. And suddenly you take up Krishna consciousness, suddenly you're now going to become a millionaire. That's not going to change, basically. So there are certain things that are not going to change, so you have to just tolerate those. But there are certain things that are going to come in the future that will be taken care by Krishna. So, like for example, Vasudeva, his immediate problem was not solved. When he picked up Krishna, he was still in jail. He had to come back to jail after After dropping Krishna there, it's not that he suddenly got liberated, no, he had to face problems. And in fact, after Krishna was born, 11 years he was enjoying in Vrindavan. What about the problem called Kamsa? He didn't deal with it immediately. 11 years later he came, and in 5 minutes he killed Kamsa. You actually see Kamsa and Krishna's fight. It is such a disappointing fight. Kamsa doesn't even hit Krishna once. Like that only he dies. 5 minutes Kamsa dies literally. But for 11 years, where was Krishna? He didn't solve the problem immediately. So when we pick up Krishna, it's not that all our problems get solved instantly. It's not a magic. This is not some like Baba that is promising you, you distribute 100 samosas and all problems will get solved of yours. It's not like that. There are some things that will get solved immediately. And then there are some things that you will develop the strength to handle it. I hope that answers too.
Okay. So if there aren't any other questions, Prabhuji, our heartfelt thanks to you. And we all would like to pray for your spiritual benefit and progress. And in turn, we'll also progress in our spiritual life. So let's all chant together the Hare Krishna mantra on the special day of Janmastami and make all of life blissful. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks so much. We wish you happy Janmashtami, Prabhuji.
Same to all of you all. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai.